Hello and welcome to Continental Prime, reaching you live from our studios in Lagos, Nigeria. The headlines for this are: the indefinite strike by resident doctors in Nigeria enters its 8th day as the federal government invokes the no work, no pay rule. An attack on a health center in Ethiopia's northeastern Afar region leaves at least 12 dead. South Africa Development Community launches regional military mission against insurgency in Mozambique. Details shortly. For viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is Continental Prime here on News Central Television. I'm Sulaiman Alede. The news begins in Nigeria, where resident doctors are in the 8th day of their indefinite strike. Since the start of the industrial action, it has been a battle of words between resident doctors and the federal government as issues of poor remuneration, deplorable health facilities, among others, remain the root causes of the strike. News Central's Mary Chinde brings us up to speed on the situation at some hospitals within the commercial city of Lagos in southwest Nigeria. Her report.
The General Hospital, Lagos Island, crammed with patients, doctors and non-medical staff. Despite the strike action, the hospital is abuzz. News Central is barely allowed to film. Meanwhile, at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Bluff, the situation is different, as parts of the usually busy hospital look scanty. It is day 8 of the strike action, and the doctors are saying they are not backing down in any way. We're actually at the conference room of the Association of Resident Doctors right here at Bluff, and that's because the University Teaching Hospital would not let the media in, so we had to sneak into this secretariat to be able to find out what's going on, especially since the government has threatened that if the doctors do not go back to work, they will not be paid. However, the tempo here is that the doctors are still not going back to work. They are calling the federal government of Nigeria's threat a bluff, and they're saying there is no going back to work just yet. The president of the Association of Resident Doctors speaks to us.
The situation is still the same. The strike continues. Presently within the hospital, there are no resident doctors because the directive from the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors is still that nothing has been achieved, and as such, the strike continues.
The doctors have made firm their demands. Improved welfare and standard medical facilities top their list.
There are 13 doctors leaving the country every week. As we speak now, more than 50% of registered Nigerian doctors are outside the country. This is rather unfortunate. People that have been trained to give quality health care to Nigerians are no longer here because their welfare is not well taken care of. For example, in Lut, we've not had call food for more than 22 months, meaning that if a doctor is on call, there won't be food for the doctor. Doctor will have to look for food around instead of attending to patients at night. Most of the rooms we stay when we are on call, which we call rooms, are in deplorable state. These are some of the issues fueling the brain drain that we presently witness in the country. For us, it is a no retreat, no surrender, until government fulfill its promises that was signed in the memorandum of action. We will never back out on this strike.
On Sunday, the Nigerian government, through the Minister for Labour and Productivity, Chris Ngige, made it clear that it is no longer willing to dialogue with the striking doctors. Mary Chinda for News Central.
Well, joining me now for more on the doctors' strike is the Secretary General of the National Association of Resident Doctors, Jerry Ishogun. Good to see you, Jerry. Let's quickly begin with the federal government's invocation of the no work, no pay policy. What is your association's response to this latest move by the government?
Good evening. the no work, no pay policy that the federal government mentioned, our stand is that we are not bothered about. We are doing what we are doing. We don't. That is not our priority. We hope that the federal government realize that they are making a mistake and withdraw that quickly, because that will further compound the problem.
Well, when you say this definitely will further compound the problem, your body of doctors have been accused of being insensitive on the strike, especially as it is coming during the COVID-19 pandemic. What more do you have to say to these accusations?
My brother, that accusation is not true, because we are very sensitive to the plight of Nigerians. Hence, we were not willing to go on this strike. We did everything to ensure that this strike is averted, but some agencies of government did not do what they were supposed to do. Having signed an MOU with us, and an MOU with us for more than 115 days now. You agree with me that the fact that they didn't do what they were supposed to do led to this strike. I must confirm to you that at a meeting called by the House Committee on Health today, was a review that we were exonerated from all these blames. However, we know that strike is not a good thing for the common for Nigerians, for the common citizens of this country. Hence, at all times, we don't. It's not our weapon to go on strike. But since January, we have been on these issues. For people to be working without salary is something that we cannot comprehend. At the meeting today, you need to be there and see how people that were supposed to handle the health sector are being embarrassed. So it's shameful that this strike was allowed in the first place. And as a responsible association, we are out to see to the resolution of this crisis, not just for this strike, but to forestall the recurrence of the strike. So we are not the cause of the strike, and all Nigerians must know, so that we will, at different fora, we have stated it, all those that led to this strike should be called to book. If you are in charge of payment of salaries and you didn't do that, you as a journalist should help us to call them out. You cannot say that somebody that is asking for his salary is not sensitive. Do you want
let me quickly come in here, Dr. Isogun. Your association's president, Dr. Ohuaisui, has called for the resignation or sack of the Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, who is also a medical doctor. So looking at this case, some Nigerians are wondering, you have a medical doctor in charge of labor, you have a medical doctor or medical doctors in charge of the health ministry, making three key professionals looking at the issues you've raised. Do you think all three are insensitive to your plight, or they understand that your union is insensitive here?
Now, the issue, I must be sincere with you, the three ministers, they are leaders in those ministries. They are supposed to command the people working under them to do the needful. Because there are people, everybody handling these issues are not doctors. It's unfortunate that those that are supposed to lead us, they probably are not led very well. There are people frustrating, their efforts, and I think that they should call those people out instead of coming to blame the doctors that are asking for their right. They should blame the people that are supposed to have done that were supposed to have done this job. Everybody in the Ministry of Health are not doctors. Everybody in the Ministry of Labor are not doctors. So there are people that are supposed to do one or two things that didn't do them. Those people should be called out and blamed for this strike. And if we could have a meeting today with federal government, and in that meeting, it was revealed that we were not at fault, then it's obvious that government, the agencies caused this strike. And I believe that we all, it's high time we galvanize together to ask for, responsible leadership. The people that are suffering presently, they cannot afford healthcare outside this country. So why would people in government deliberately plunge us into crisis so that Nigerians will suffer?
I'm afraid that will be all. Dr. Jerry Isogun, Secretary General of the National Association of Resident Doctors. Many thanks for speaking with us on the news. Now, moving on to other coverage of the coronavirus pandemic across the continent, Nigeria's Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 has announced August 16 a start date of phase 2 of its vaccination campaign using the Moderna doses donated by the American government. This comes after the committee's spokesperson, Willie Bassi, announced the suspension of the exercise on Sunday, citing unforeseen circumstances. Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shoaib, says the new date enables the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control to complete its assessment of the vaccine. In the meantime, Egypt has received its first shipment of the one-shot Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccines. The country's health ministry says the 261,600 doses were received in cooperation with the African Union and distributed to 126 vaccination centers specifically for those who want to travel abroad. The doses, which arrived on Monday, will complement previous Sputnik, Sinopharm and Oxford AstraZeneca shots. The country has reported more than 284,000 infections and over 16,000 coronavirus-related deaths since the pandemic began. Now, staying in North Africa, Tunisia has kicked off its national vaccination against COVID-19. About 335 centers across 24 provinces have started to vaccinate citizens aged 40 and above. The Health Ministry organized this initiative in coordination with the Defense, Interior and Education Ministries and cooperation with several departments and components of the civil society. The vaccination process has so far recorded a total of 302,751 people vaccinated. The Tunisian Health Ministry says that the goal is to vaccinate 50% of the country's population by the end of October 2021. Now, down south, Botswana will deliver its first ever consignment of 108,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine on Thursday. The government announced on Monday that the doses were purchased through the African Vaccine Acquisition Tax Team facility. The announcement comes a day after the government received 38,400 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, which had been purchased through the COVAX facility. A statement from the government said part of the consignment would be used as a second dose for persons who were previously informed that a double doses were not available. Now, staying with health matters, a cholera outbreak in southern Niger has killed 12 people and infected 201 others across the regions. The country's health minister, Idi Ilyasu Nasara, made the announcement on Monday, saying most of the cases were related to an epidemic that has been raging for several months in neighboring Nigeria, where at least 653 people have been killed since March across 22 of its 36 states. Nasara says the current cholera outbreak in Niger occurred in the same regions in 2018. Coming up, at least 12 people have been killed in Ethiopia's northeastern Afar region. We'll bring you more on this and other stories after the break. Stay with us. Well, if you just joined us, you're welcome. You're watching Continental Prime here on News Central Television, reaching you live from Lagos, Nigeria. On Thursday, Tanzanian riot police detained several protesting supporters of arrested opposition leader Freedom Mbowe as a terrorism case against him was postponed. Mbowe and other officials from the main opposition party Chadema were arrested last month ahead of a planned conference to demand constitutional reform. The 59-year-old has been charged with terrorism, financing and conspiracy in a case that has triggered concern among rights groups and some Western nations about the state of democracy under Tanzania's new leader. Joining me now for more is a Tanzanian lawyer and member of the opposition Chadema party, Tundu Lissu. Good to see you, Tundu Lissu, and thanks for your time. Quickly here, leader of your country's opposition Chadema party, Freedom Mbowe, was arrested just hours before he was due to launch a program calling for constitutional reform in Tanzania. What are your thoughts on this latest development?
Mr. Mbowe was not arrested. He was abducted at gunpoint at the dead of the night and driven 1,100 kilometers to Dar es Salaam, where he was held illegally for 6 days without access to his family, without access to his lawyers, until he was stolen out, surreptitiously taken to court, again without his lawyer's knowledge, and charged with these fabricated terror charges. They are just that, they're completely bogus and fabricated terror charges.
Now, you have said that this development isn't a case of an arrest, but an abduction. What's the law in Tanzania about anyone who's been so abducted by anyone, but in this case by the government?
The law requires that when a person is arrested, before he is arrested, he must be told the charges that he's being accused of. Mr. Mbowe was not told anything other than to be bundled into these police vehicles, blindfolded and shackled to Land Rover and driven to Dar es Salaam. He stayed in police jails for 6 days without being told why he was being held. And it is only when he was taken before the magistrate in Dar es Salaam, that's when these terrorism charges were read to him. Now, it is the law that before a person is charged with these serious offenses, he must be given, the reason for his arrest. He must be given the reason for the charges that he's being accused of in writing. Now, Mr. Mbowe was denied even copy of the charge sheet. So we are dealing here with a police force that has become a predatory police force that is attacking civil liberties, that is being used by the CCM regime, the ruling regime, as its armed wing. It has stopped being a national police force. It is an armed wing of the ruling party.
Let me quickly comment here, Tundu Lissu, and it's about rights groups and opposition activists within Tanzania and outside the continent. They think that this very case we're discussing is a case of being intolerant of a dissent voice in Tanzania. Perhaps you would want to say why you think this is happening to your leader.
I'm sorry, I did not hear the first part of your question.
Some rights groups and opposition in Tanzania are saying that this means just one thing, that the government of Tanzania is intolerant of dissent voices. And I'm asking, what are those key things that your leader has been saying or doing that would amount to being, a dissent voice in Tanzania?
Those who say that the government of Tanzania is intolerant of dissent are completely right. They are completely correct. What Mr. Mbowe's offense is calling for overhaul of our constitutional and political order. That is what he's been working on since the travesty of last year's elections. Mr. Mbowe did not do anything other than to hold internal party gatherings, which are not regulated by law. Internal party meetings are not are not governed by any legislation. We are free to hold internal party meetings, and that's what he was doing. He had done for the past 2 months before his arrest. And after the president declared that the constitutional reform was not part of her agenda, then the police force, this armed wing of the ruling party, was let loose, as it were, and they started attacking our members who were holding internal party meetings. Mr. Mbowe was arrested the night before he was to chair a constitutional reform forum, an internal party gathering. He did absolutely nothing in accordance with the Tanzanian laws, but we are dealing with an extension
a moment here. Allow me, button here, Tundulisu, apologies. And again, just as some Africans are showing concern, the United States is also showing concern over Mbowe's arrest and has asked President Hassan to ensure that he's released. Do you think that this would change the dynamics of events unfolding in your country?
I think it is very important for not just the government of the United States, but our friends and partners all over the world to show their commitment to democracy. This attack on democracy, the arrest and charging of the leader of the largest opposition party in the country for doing nothing other than to demand constitutional reform, should not go unnoticed and unpunished. So it is my call that those who call us their friends and our development partners should show it by deeds at this time. They should stand on the side of democracy. They should not allow this dictatorship to run roughshod over our democratic rights. And since you are asking, I'm traveling this week to the United States, and from next week on, I'll be making the case to the American government and their elected representatives that it is time to stand on the side of democracy. It is time not just to speak out, it is time to act. The United States should use the Global Magnitsky Act to punish those who are terrorizing our people in Tanzania and making sure that they are not welcome anywhere outside the country.
Many thanks for speaking with us. Lawyer and member of the opposition Tanzania Chadema Party, Tundulisu.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, now in South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa has commended the generation of leaders, particularly women, who fought for the freedom and rights of women in the 50s. President Ramaphosa's commendation comes as the country marks National Women's Day. He encouraged today's generation of women to follow in the footsteps of those before them and fight against injustices peculiar to the challenges of this time. News Central's Omolola Ololade has more on this.
Every year in August, South Africans pay tribute to more than 20,000 women who marched to the Union buildings on 9 August 1956 in protest against the extension of past laws to women, a system meant to control women as well as reducing them to passive beings at the mercy of men.
Exactly 65 years ago today, 20,000 South African women from all walks of life and from various parts of the country marched to the Union buildings to demand an end to the dehumanizing past laws of the apartheid regime. Despite the dangers of challenging apartheid authorities, they asserted their worth as human beings and refused to be relegated to the margins of history in their own country.
However, Women's Month in August is a tribute not only to thousands of women who marched on this day in 1956, but also a tribute to pioneers of the women's movement in South Africa who encouraged women to engage in the struggle for freedom.
As we celebrate Women's Day, we honor remember and salute all women from all generations who have been part of our struggle and have made significant contributions for our nation's freedom, democracy, and development. We commemorate this important day and month under the theme which we had agreed upon from the beginning of the year of Charlotte Manya Matrek.
The National Women's Day is worth celebrating as it has come to represent women's courage and strength in South Africa while bringing attention to the issues African women faced then and still face today. Omolola Ololade reporting for News Central.
While still on National Women's Day, celebrations are now down to a minimum due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Official celebrations were held in the country's Limpopo province under the theme of equality for women. Well, joining me this evening is the research officer at the Ahmed Cathedra Foundation, Nabila Khan, to tell us more about this important day in South Africa. Nabila, good to see you. Can you briefly tell us more about the reason South Africa has its own Women's Day?
Yes, well, good evening, and thank you for having me. So on the 9th of August, 1956, 20,000 women from across races marched to the Union buildings in Pretoria to protest against the proposed amendments to the past laws under the apartheid regime. The women left 50,000 petitions at the door of the office of the Prime Minister. They then subsequently stood in silence for about 30 minutes, and then they broke out into a protest song. And this song has now come to represent South African women's courage and strength, and that is Wa Intinta Abafazi, Wa Intinta Mbukodu, which essentially means you strike a woman, you strike a rock.
Well, again, it's been 65 years since that march, and of course, things have changed considerably for women in South Africa, no doubt. So what are some of the challenges that women in South Africa are currently experiencing that I know you've been following?
Yes, I think it's incredibly important for us to acknowledge the strides that we have made in the past 65 years. It's led to me sitting here with you today having this discussion. As we stand, South Africa is celebrated for its constitution. It's celebrated for having some of the most progressive laws and policies that essentially seek to uplift women and uphold women's rights. However, South Africa is inherently an unequal society. And unfortunately, Black women predominantly have to bear the brunt of the socioeconomic ills and inequalities that are plaguing our communities. The inconsistent and continuing marginalization and oppression of rural women is one of the biggest threats that we have to women's rights in South Africa. These cultures are steeped in patriarchal beliefs and traditions that keep women at home and stop them from going to places of education or getting a job. But what we also have is young women who are unable to continue with their education and having to drop out of school as a result of these patriarchal norms, but also as a result of period poverty, which is rampant in our country. And I think one of the other biggest challenges that we do have facing women in South Africa is gender-based violence. This violence we are now seeing is just not occurring in the household environments, but it's now spilled over into the schools, into our work environments. And it is ultimately as a result of unaddressed sexism, patriarchal norms, behaviors, attitudes, and quite honestly, the general culture of impunity.
Well, the South African government has themed 2021 the year of Charlotte Manya Makeke. Apologies if I didn't get that right. You should be helping me on that, realizing women's equality. But is that enough, coming from the government, talking about women's equality?
To put it simply, no, it's not enough. As we have it, there have been certain reports that have been conducted by Amnesty International in South Africa that estimates around over 40 million South Africans do not have access to basic sanitation, and over 3 million don't have access to basic water and clean water. And the problem with this is the grouping in South Africa that will be most devastated by this are women. Women don't have access to clean water. Women don't have access to toilets. And as a result, they're having to put themselves in very vulnerable and dangerous situations just to actually partake in a very basic human activity. What we have is a failing of the state, a failing of our local municipalities. And we are seeing this as we now looking at the rampant corruption that is plaguing our country. Corruption is stealing money that has been earmarked for the running and earmarked for the development of basic services such as water and electricity. Outside of that, we have gender-based violence. And when it comes to that, for the lack of a better term, our justice system is failing. The stories we hear of women who go to police stations to report cases of sexual assault, and the treatment that they're giving is absolutely disgusting, to say the least. So I would not say what government is doing is enough. I think, over the past few months, we have seen some efforts by our government to address and curb the levels of corruption so that it doesn't impact on human rights, but this is not enough. I think the time for conversations around women's issues, women's rights has come and gone. The time for action is now. We urge government and we need government to be looking at and addressing how do we make sure that women have access to basic essentials. These are human rights, it's not a luxury. We need to be looking at how do we strengthen our justice system? How do we equip our police services to actually address these issues when women come to them and report issues of sexual assault?
So, Nabila, let's see if we can quickly close on this. Just yesterday, ahead of these celebrations, the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation commemorated women of fortitude, or what you call women of grit, in South Africa by tracing the stories of several female anti-apartheid struggle icons. But is enough being done to acknowledge South Africa's female struggle icons?
I think in that regard, there's a huge gap. There's a lot of room for improvement. As we've seen, history favors men. So the women who were at the forefront for a lot of these struggles are often forgotten of, not spoken about. And that is a huge issue. And it's for this reason that the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation is calling for 2022 to be the centenary of Rahima Musa, so that we can ensure that the stories of these young, of these powerful, dynamic, formidable women are not forgotten. But also the foundation is actually running a campaign where we're gathering the names of the 20,000 women who marched in 1956 to ensure that they are not forgotten and that they are celebrated for the struggles and for their fight that they carried out for us.
Nabila Khan, many thanks for unpacking this for us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's Heroes Day in Zimbabwe as people in the southern African country remember and celebrate those who sacrificed for the liberation and development of the country. This year's celebration has had to be modified to comply with COVID-19 precautions. News Central's Chidima also tells us more.
For the first time since independence, civilians and civil servants will be honored for their heroic selfless sacrifice through their distinguished service in the national interest. In the past, such recognition was specially reserved for members of the uniformed forces, and this has since changed. Every day, there are people who are prepared to go beyond the call of duty to serve their communities and motherland.
This week we are celebrating the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Day together with the Heroes Day. In these 2 days we are celebrating the sacrifices of many Zimbabweans who gave their lives, who confronted the oppressive regime of racial segregation, which struggle goes back to the arrival of the Rhodesians in the 1890s, but which saw us getting our independence in 1980, with so many people having given their lives and so much blood having been lost.
Heroes Day is a public holiday in Zimbabwe, observed on the second Monday in August. Honors and awards will be conferred on 25 historical personages, late and living, and on 14 institutions.
National salute, present!
The main ceremonies to mark the day are held at the nation's Heroes Ark in Harare, the country's capital, only for those afforded the title of national hero. Happy Heroes Day, Zimbabwe. Chidima Nwosu, News Central.
Yes, exactly. Happy Heroes Day to all Zimbabweans. But in the meantime, voters in Zambia will rather head to the ballot box on Thursday, August 12, to choose a president from 16 candidates, making this the most heavily contested election in the country's history. The leading contenders are incumbent Edgar Lungu of the governing Patriotic Front and Hakainde Hichilema of the main opposition United Party for National Development, who won 98% of the presidential vote in 2016. Zambian correspondent Lydia Makina earlier shed light on preparations for this historic election, seeing over 16 candidates for the top position.
Well, people are very ready about this election. 3 days to go for the actual day, which will be on Thursday. And yesterday we had the national prayers concerning the election, so that it will be held in peace and that there shouldn't be any conflict. And then you know that there are still presidential candidates that are contesting for this presidential seat. But the two that are leading so far, according to what political scientists session already predicted, to say that between his Edgar Changwangu and the opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema, one of them is hope, because looking at the popularity of people that are on social media and on radios and other platforms. So this is where they say the top leading as at now are two of them, which is His Excellency Dr. Edgar Changwangu and Hakainde Hichilema. So as at now, the country really is at peace, away from violence, and just that they are very much ready to cast their votes on the 12th of August, which is on Thursday. So the ballot papers are being distributed countrywide, all the 10 provinces, and also see that His Excellency Dr. Edgar Changwangu has been visiting all.
Well, earlier, the Lydia Makina telling us more about the coming elections. Staying in the region, southern African countries have inaugurated a regional military mission to help Mozambique take back control of its gas-rich northern province from jihadists that have been rampaging across towns and villages for nearly 4 years. Mozambican President Filipe Nyusi and Botswana's President Mokwesi Masisi launched the Southern African Development Community Mission in Mozambique at an event in Pemba, the capital of Cabo Delgado province. Nyusi, in a speech, hailed the recapture of Awasi and Mocimboa da Praia towns from the insurgents just weeks after the eastern troops arrived. Now let's a few other crises happening. But again, still to come, climate change experts warn about dire consequences in their latest report on the phenomenon. We'll bring you details after the break. Well, experts on climate change have warned that the effects of the existential phenomenon are widespread, rapid, and intensifying. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said that global warming has been unequivocally human-driven. The latest report is based on an assessment of more than 14,000 scientific papers on the climate.
That climate change is affecting every region on our planet. And lastly, it explains that strong, rapid, sustained reductions in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions would be required to limit global warming.
This report shows that in all the assessed scenarios, global warming would reach or exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius in the coming 2 decades. However, if emissions are reduced rapidly, and if at the global scale they reach net zero by around 2050, then temperature would be very close to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the mid of the century, and would decline lower to that level by the end of the century.
As citizens and as businesses and as governments, we're well aware of the drama. And so the drama exists. We have seen it and we heard about it in every news bulletin. And that's what we need to understand, that the expression of what the science says is exhibited before our very eyes. And of course, what this excellent report does is it projects these scenarios outward and tells us, if we do not take action, what could be the potential outcomes? Or if we do take action, what will be a very good outcome?
Well, the findings of the latest IPCC report will be discussed at the COP26 Climate Change Conference in Glasgow this November. Now, Greek Prime Minister Ms. Toskasis has apologized today for their failures in tackling the devastating wildfires that have burned across the country for the past week. Ms. Toskasis promised that mistakes will be identified and rectified in a televised address and called for unity. The Greek Prime Minister promised that forests destroyed by the fires would be restored and climate defenses will be built up. He also pledged compensation for those whose property was destroyed in the fires. There's been growing public anger at delays and breakdowns in the government's response. More than 500 fires have been burning across Greece, forcing the evacuation of dozens of villages and thousands of people. Let's get a sense of what business news is like with Tolulope.
Welcome to NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulope Adileru Balogun. The fate of South African budget carrier Mango Airline has been deferred to Wednesday at Johannesburg South High Court, where organized labor is seeking to place the airline under Business Rescue Administration. This comes as an Irish company, Nigerian Aircraft 4, withdrew its liquidation application for Mango. This was due to the over 56 million rand debt in mutual interest with unions for the airline to be placed under business rescue. Nigerian Aircraft 4 had approached the court in April to wind up the airline for debt after failing to honor its obligations for a 2014 deal in which it leased 2 Boeing B737-800 aircraft. The Mango Pilots Association, the South African Cabin Crew Association, and the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa recently approached the court to rescind liquidation processes. They are also seeking the appointment of Ralph Lutchman as the business rescue practitioner. From the south, we move now to the east, where the Nairobi Securities Exchange, NSE, has recorded a 33.5% decline in equity turnover for July 2021. This means it lost billions, moving from 19.95 billion Kenyan shillings in June to 9.3 billion Kenyan shillings in July 2021. According to the Barometer, a monthly bulletin published by the NSE, bonds turnover also declined by 0.9% from 96.6 billion Kenyan shillings in June to 95.8 billion Kenyan shillings in July 2021. The NSE's market capitalization, however, rose by 2.4% to over 2 billion Kenyan shillings in July of this year. And we're in the West now, where the Ghana Stock Exchange, GSE, has announced that its earnings in 2020 are its highest profits since it was established. This comes despite the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic that same year. The exchange posted a profit of 23.46 million Ghana cedis in 2020 compared to 8.43 million Ghana cedis in 2019. The chairman of the GSE Council, Anslim Ray Sowa, during the 31st annual general meeting said the GSE Composite Index closed the year at 1,941.59 points. This represented a decline of 13.98%, slightly higher than the 12.25% decline recorded at the end of 2019. Market capitalization for all listed securities ended the year with 54.37 billion Ghana cedis compared with 56.79 billion Ghana cedis recorded in 2019, representing a dip of 4.25%. We stay in the western part of the continent where Dangote Sugar Refinery PLC, owned by Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, plans to spend $1 billion on expansion. This decision comes after Nigeria's central bank made Dangote Sugar one of 3 sole importers of the sweetener into Africa's largest economy. Chief Executive Officer Ravindra Singhvi said at an investor conference call in Lagos that the company has put more than 100,000 hectares of land under cultivation to grow sugarcane for local sourcing of inputs. The CEO added that plantations in Nigeria's northern states of Adamawa and Nasarawa will be ready by 2023, while work to almost double the capacity of its sugar refinery in Adamawa to 6,000 tons cane crushing per day is ongoing. And we stay in Nigeria, where the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says that the African Development Bank, AFDB, has agreed to support micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria, especially technology-based ones, with $500 million. According to him, support for small businesses must continue as they are the future of the country. He said that the support given to MSMEs had brought hope, jobs, and opportunities. He pointed out how seriously the government took the position of SMEs with the establishment of the MSMEs Survival Fund during the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's the business news we have for you at this hour. There is more news coming up on NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulokwe Adileru Balogun. I'll see you 11 a.m. West African time for Business Edge.
Thanks, Tolulokwe. Now we turn to Sheung Bankole and the digital team for the latest trending stories of the day.
I hope you all had a great weekend. I did. Thank you for joining us. I am Sheung Bankole. Now, today on NC Trends, we kick off with the hashtag that has been trending for weeks. That's BB Niger. Now, Sunday's live eviction show came with an unexpected plot twist of reintroducing 4 new surprise housemates. Now, biggest surprise threw the housemates off balance, but that did not stop the scheduled evictions, as Yerins, Niyi, and Beatrice bade their goodbyes. Now, in between the live eviction show, the new housemates, who are expected to bring more intensity to the show than what viewers have gotten in the past few weeks, were introduced to the show. Big Brother House now has 23 housemates, and that includes the new housemates, Michael, an artist, KV, a photographer, Jumoke, a lawyer, and Queen, a philanthropist. Now, let's see what people are saying about this new twist in the Big Brother's house, as well as yesterday's eviction. Now, this one says, an unasked opinion to Big Brother. What an eviction night full of surprises. Unarguably, BBN is the best thrilling reality show in Africa. With some housemates entering the house and some housemates leaving the house tonight, Big Brother has given us a wow experience. All right, Dare says, Michael has caused Walao. Jackie B is now referring to Boma as the head of house. He's not Babe or even Boma anymore. Hashtag BB Niger Season 6. Moving away from that to some whooping good news for Ghanaians. The United Arab Emirates says Ghanaians can now enter the UAE without hassle. Now, this is the outcome of the visa-free deal between the UAE and the Ghanaian government. Following an approval by the Parliament of the West African nation on Thursday, a visa waiver agreement for diplomatic, service, and ordinary passport holders was reached. Now, this comes a month after the Nigeria passport was ranked worse than ever under President Buhari's regime. Let's see a few comments online. Iris Bora says, now that is a nation that is moving forward and not backwards.
Kizzy Sevi says, congratulations, Ghana. Great times, beautiful future with intentional leadership. Also, this one reads, we now see that reputation is a lot, right? Their reputation brought about this adoption. Finally, there's another story that has gone viral on Twitter and has sparked a lot of reactions. We'd like to hear your thoughts as well. A Twitter user at Gani_Jonathan shared the story of a pregnant wife who filed for divorce after her husband bought his mother a car. In her words, I can't be carrying your baby and walking with my legs while your mom drives a car. Now, we are not sure if this story is fictional or real, but assuming it is not made up, what is your take on a man buying a car for his mother when he has a pregnant wife who does not have a car? And is divorce an opinion in the grand scheme of things? Well, let's see a few thoughts online. Eric says, after God comes my parents, my mom and dad, then my siblings. If you can't accept that, then I pity you, you don't compete with a man's family. That is Eric's opinion. Nena says, God bless this man, you tried. Please sign the divorce paper sharp. Thank God she's pregnant. After labor, sleepless nights and training her child, she will learn how to appreciate her mother-in-law. Another thought online says, divorce is extreme, but your men need to understand that if you're not ready to put your wife first in all your activities, please don't get married. You'll be shouting, it's my mom, but your mom is important, but she's your dad's responsibility, and your wife is your own responsibility. And that is on NC Trends today. Remember to follow us across social media at
Apologies for that. But again, thank you very much. And quickly, time for us to look at what's happening in the world of sports. The Olympic Games are over. Yes. Now it's time for the various federations to start planning for the next 4 years. To tell us more about that and some other summer games is Udoka. How are you doing, Udoka?
Good evening, Salai. Yes, Olympics has come and gone, and the athletes have actually collected their medals, and we look forward to the next Olympics, which will be in France. All right, for more of the news, let's talk about Kenya as the World Junior 200-meter deaf athletics record holder, Beru Atieno Wamira, has urged the Ministry of Sports to pay more attention to the Deaf Athletics Association of Kenya athletes. Wamira, together with 29 other athletes, including 23 men and 6 women, are scheduled to take part in the World Deaf Athletics Championships in Poland from the 23rd to the 28th of August. However, the team has not entered residential camp since the World Deaf Athletics Championship qualifiers in June. Wamira, who competes in the 100-meter and 200-meter races, was the first Kenyan special athlete to win gold at the world stage in 2012 in Canada. In 2016, she won bronze in 200-meter and in her second trip to Bulgaria during the World Deaf Athletics Championship, before bagging silver in 100-meter and 200-meter during the 2017 Summer Deaf Olympics in Turkey. And in South Africa, the South African Sports Confederation Olympic Committee has confirmed that it will not offer bonuses to athletes who won medals at the just concluded Tokyo 2020 Olympics. The Olympic Committee President Barry Hendricks confirmed that the organization would not be issuing medal bonuses to Tatiana Schoenmaker and Bianca Buitendag. Schoenmaker and Buitendag were the only athletes from the Team South Africa to win medals at the Games, with Schoenmaker winning gold and silver in the 200-meter and 100-meter breaststroke, respectively. Now, Buitendag was a silver medalist in surfing, which made its debut in Japan, and Hendricks said this would apply to Paralympic athletes as well, and he cited budget constraints as a reason for the lack of medals in Tokyo. And in football, Zamalek Football Club left back Ahmed Feto has been suspended by the head coach Patrice Catron after leaving the club's camp without permission following the Gaz El Mehala game. The player was a part of the Zamalek squad that beat Gaz El Mehala 3-0 last Saturday to put pressure on Al Ahly in the Egyptian Premier League title race. The player has also been part of the Egyptian under-23 national team that participated in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and reached the quarterfinals. However, Zamalek has announced the suspension of the 23-year-old player after leaving the club's camp without permission. Now, the White Knights' next game in their battle for the Egyptian Premier League title will be against Ittihad of Alexandria, with the match taking place on Tuesday. Moving on from there now in tennis, Egyptian tennis player Maya Sharif made history as she broke into the women's top 100 ATP rankings after reaching the final of the Winners' Open that took place in Romania. 2 weeks ago, Maya represented Egypt in the 2020 Olympics, but she couldn't get past round 1 after losing to Sweden's Rebecca Peterson. However, the Egyptian picked herself up quickly and made an incredible recovery as she became the first Egyptian WTA finalist only days after the Olympics. And Maya's impressive tournament helped her break into the top 100 ATP rankings, becoming the first Egyptian tennis female player to do so, as she is now ranked 97th. And lastly, former world football chief Sepp Blatter arrived on Monday for final hearings with a Swiss prosecutor in a fraud probe surrounding a 2011 FIFA payment to Michel Platini. Former FIFA president Blatter is being investigated over a 2 million Swiss francs payment to Platini, who was then in charge of European football governing body UEFA. Now, the final hearing in the investigation was postponed to August due to the retired Swiss football administrator's poor health. And because of his conditions, the hearing with a federal prosecutor from the Office of the Attorney General of Switzerland can only last for around 90 minutes. And the hearing could therefore continue on subsequent days this week if required. That's it on Sports Update on NC Continental Prime. I am Udoka Njoko.
Many thanks, Udoka. Yeah. And let's now go to our weather desk for a look at what to expect in terms of sunshine and precipitation across the continent. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at the major stories. Resident doctors in Nigeria have continued their indefinite strike for the 8 days straight on as the federal government invokes a no work, no pay policy. An attack on a health center in Ethiopia's northeastern Afar region has left at least 12 persons dead. And finally, we told you that the South African development community has launched a regional military mission against insurgents in Mozambique. Follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. You can also watch News Central live on Star Times Channel 274, Avio TV, Channel 23, Vision 247, Free TV, and on YouTube. You can also go to our website, newscentral.africa. I'm Sulaiman. Later, many thanks for watching.